GG's, Odie. Appreciate it, bud. We are going to hit news buttons. I'm going to hit this news button first. No? No, I'm not. This one. So our top stories today are, of course, some new ships announced by Wargaming. We've also got some information on the Sevastopol. What is that and what has changed with it since they originally announced that ship in World of Warships on the dev blog a while back? And what about this Canarias nerf? Have you guys heard about this? We're going to talk about that and one more thing, the invincible airships today in the news. But first, let's go back to those new ships we talked about. In this week's European World of Warships stream, they announced the Japanese cruiser Maya is going to be joining the game at Tier 7. Now, Maya is already in the game in an ARP configuration. The Arpeggio of Blue Steel anime tie-in they had a little while ago. And they have a Tier 8 version of the Maya there, which is a Takao class cruiser. And here is a picture of the Maya that we're going to get in game. Let's take a quick look at this thing. It looks nice. Of course, it looks very much like a Takao, but one turret down. I think this is a cool looking camo. All it is a darker gray, but it makes it look fairly unique among other ships, right? I mean, I like to laugh at the Novorossiysk for coming out with just a basic gray camo, but this one, just because it's a shade darker, kind of makes it look a little, I don't know, moody or edgy or whatever. It's a good looking ship, and I think it will. I think it'll prove to be interesting. Let's read a little bit more about it. So it's a Takao class cruiser. In the midst of World War II, it underwent a refit during which they removed one of the main caliber turrets. And they boosted its anti-aircraft capabilities. The ship comes with 8 203mm guns with high accuracy and a high chance to cause fires, and a very low firing range, which is typical of Japanese ships. We'll take a look at what those ranges are here in just a moment. She's also equipped with 4 610mm quadruple torpedo tubes. That's 4 launchers, each launching 4 torpedoes, so 2 launchers per side. And if we look, let me go back to that picture. It looks like we can see 2 little doorways here on the side, or 2 little passages where those torps are going to launch. The thing that I like most about what they said here is they have, what does it say? 4 torpedo launch with wide aiming angles and a high torpedo damage and speed. Fast torpedoes, wide angles, big damage, sign me up. I think that's awesome. And if you're looking at where these are, on a lot of Japanese ships, those torp launchers are very much towards the back of the ship, whereas these are a little bit more centrally located. They're still on the back half probably, but they're a little further to the center of the ship, which might help us with those wide torpedo arcs that they're promising in this description. I hope those come true as described. In comparison with the Tago, Maya is equipped with a main battery reload booster, which is really exciting on a Japanese ship. This is extremely rare. I don't think there's any Japanese ships with a reload booster. And it does have more powerful and faster torpedoes. At the same time, she has fewer main battery guns, a less armored deck, as well as lower range and a higher reload time of those torpedoes. We're going to take a quick look at a few things. Almost 40,000 hit points on the... Oh, that's true. Skata points out Hyuga has that, which is a battleship that does have the reload booster for the Japanese line. Good point, Skata. Thank you. 40,000 hit points almost on the Maya. The plating, fore and aft plating, is 16mm. This is always not quite detailed enough for me to answer my questions about, how heavy the armor is. However, if we're looking at 16mm deck, which is probably what we're looking at here, that's similar to like what Minotaur has at Tier 10, right? Very, very thin armor, pennable by virtually every gun in the game, at least every main battery gun. Main battery, 8 guns at 203 millimeters, 15.3 kilometer range, which is actually pretty standard. That's not much shorter than a Tago. I want to say a Tago is like 15.6, maybe 15.8. So you're not losing a lot of range. You are losing 2 barrels, which is going to reduce the DPM output there. HE damage max is 3,300, 17% fire chance, which is a solid number. I think that's going to be good. And the HE velocity is in the mid 800s, about 840. Reload time's 15 seconds. That's about the same as a Tago. 180-degree turn time's 30 seconds. I don't remember a Tago's number there. Sigma of 2.0, which is pretty average in terms of accuracy. 21,000 damage for the torpedoes, only 8-kilometer range, which means you're really not going to use these too frequently. 76 knots, though, is pretty quick. That's about the same speed as the torps that come on the Hayate. 2-minute reload time is slow, but not the slowest I've seen. Again, I don't know what that arc's going to be, but that's really encouraging that maybe there's going to be some opportunities for us to use those torpedoes that wouldn't normally be available to Japanese ships. I, for one, am kind of excited about this boat. We haven't had a Japanese cruiser, or even really, we haven't had very many Japanese premiums lately, it seems. We had Hyuga, and I'm sure there's a couple others you guys could remind me of, but this is nice to see this ship coming out. I don't know if it's going to be unique enough from Miyoko and from Atago and those. I mean, it does have the reload booster and things like that. It is going to be somewhat fun that way. But I don't know. I guess we'll see what it winds up coming with. I wanted to check one more thing. Yeah, hydroacoustic search as well. Yep. I thought it had hydro and defensive AA, which is pretty common for, or a choice between hydroacoustic and defensive AA, which is pretty common for the Japanese ships. So anyway, that is Maya. They've also announced 2 American Tier 8 carriers, Hornet and Yorktown. Their parameters are in the pre-configuration phase, and they'll be announced later. We are looking at this one here. Hornet is pretty cool looking, but they don't have a whole lot to say about these 2 ships at this time, just that they're coming. So we'll keep our eyes open for these 2 Tier 8... Two Tier 8 carriers. Excuse me. The yawn snuck up on me, guys. The British supercarrier Eagle. Everyone has been gabbing about these supercarriers. People are freaked out by them. At the end of the day, we brought super ships, or World of Warships brought, Wargaming, brought super ships into the game. We should absolutely not be surprised that supercarriers would be on that list as well. Now, a lot of people feel harassed by carriers, so we'll see if people feel super harassed by these carriers. I'm really not sure. I do think some of the things they're playing with on these carriers are interesting. They talk a little bit about these aircraft carriers are having jet planes, I should say, not necessarily fighters. So it says here, the British supercarrier Eagle was originally laid down as one of the Audacious class ships, and it was completed to a greatly modified design and subsequently converted to operate the most modern types of deck aviation aircraft in the 1950s, including jet aircraft. It looks like a pretty modern ship. Let's get a quick peek at this guy here. Cool camo. I actually kind of like the purple on there. I think that looks good. You know, it's a Tier 11 super cruiser, or super carrier, I should say. So, you know, we'll see what that looks like. The United States also gets one of these called the USS United States, which became a Navy strike ship with a corresponding change in architecture and the equipment of the ship. Not a whole lot of information specifically about this ship right here. But again, it looks pretty good, pretty standard US camo. Nice big flight deck on this thing. Obviously with the elevators right here, you can see kind of a cool looking ship. I think this is an interesting looking ship. But again, you know, what's going to be so super about it? Tactical squadrons. Eagle and United States will have 2 different types of squadrons: standard squadrons and tactical squadrons. The standard squadrons are the primary strike force of the new carriers, while the tactical squadrons, consisting of jet aircraft, are best suited for quick point-to-point attacks against single targets. Now, WoW's uploaded a couple of videos here, these airplanes flying around. These are each about 30 seconds long. I'm not going to play them here because I don't want to mix that media with my own, but also because you guys can go watch these on your own. I will drop the link to the blog article here in chat for you if you guys want to go watch those. I think this was like 40 seconds. The rest are in the 30s. But they just show the jets flying around. The first one is the jets. These other 2 show some attacks. The most interesting information about that's available in these videos shows the reticles and stuff for the attack planes. And those, of course, are all subject to change. And so it's pretty much... you know, again, we're still in development on all of this. The main feature of the tactical squadrons of the new super aircraft carriers is the high speed of the planes, and enables them to cover considerable distances very quickly and makes lightning fast attacks on enemy ships possible. The Eagle and the United States cannot slow down to below cruising speed because they're jets. They have to go whatever jet speed is, and engine boost cannot be restored in flight. So now that says engine boost cannot be restored. It seems to me that you can use engine boost, but you get to only consume that bar one time. So you can't like consume it and then wait. Like a lot of times I'll take off on an aircraft carrier and I'll use about half the engine boost and then I'll let it recharge while I'm approaching my target. And then, you know, use it again when we do the attack. United States and Eagle and United States tactical squadrons consist of a single flight attack flight as they play the role of auxiliary weapon. Similar to hybrid squadrons, that is squadrons for hybrid ships like Ise and Tone and so on. They become available a certain amount of time after the battle begins because you reload them, but they take a considerable amount of time to prepare. Due to the small size of the squadron, it is worth avoiding long periods of AA fire as each aircraft lost reduces the effectiveness of the attack. The planes look really cool. I mean, you know, you got to hand it to the art department. They do a great job making things look rad. These little British planes look pretty sick as well. And they do look pretty fast. You know, when you watch that media, if you ever do, check it out and see how it goes. Mixed media. Eagle United States parameters and squadrons are in the pre-configuration phase and will be announced at a later date. Supercarriers will be added to random bundles with other super ships in update 011.1. Please note that all this information is preliminary. Do they fly and drop and attack like regular squadrons? They do look pretty similar. They look like they're rocket planes. So again, if you watch this first video, and I can actually put the link to that video in here, you guys can just watch it directly. That kind of shows they've got a wide rocket style reticle, and they do pretty normal stuff there. So Alteron, I think you might get a kick out of seeing what they're doing with the tech here with your interest in aircraft carriers. The next thing I want to talk about today, guys, is this cruiser. The Sevastopol is a boat that really I haven't seen a lot of people talking about in large part. A lot of folks have been talking about Forrest Sherman, and maybe that's because on the NA server people are really excited about Forrest Sherman. But Sevastopol is a ship that's been announced and has been talked about a lot. And frankly, we haven't talked a ton about it on this channel because I've been kind of waiting to see if I would hear anybody else talking about it and see what was going on and what the interest was in this big old Russian supercruiser. Let me turn off this dude for what we're doing here. Sevastopol is, well, let's get into it. They had first announced it in this article back in November, on November 7th. And it is a research bureau ship. We learned that in a couple other updates, but we're going to kind of go through this and talk about what it is that Sevastopol is going to be and how they've changed it as it's been in testing. GameCan says it looks like an FDG. It does look like it has German-esque main battery, doesn't it? It says it's a large artillery ship, Project 69I, which represents a small battleship. The main armament is 6 powerful 380 millimeter guns placed in 3 turrets. So that's going to be 2 guns up front, 1 gun out back. And if we look here, you can kind of see the back gun and the front gun. I don't see any torpedoes. This is an artillery ship through and through. Sevastopol is equipped with fast damage control team consumable, and I think that changes. We're going to look at every mention of this ship in the dev blog since November, and we'll cover that as we go, which differs from the standard damage control party by its faster reload while having a limited number of charges. So when we talk about fast damage control team, that's what we have on the Russian battleships and the new German secondary battleships, the battle cruisers. We have those limited number of DCP charges to put out fires, floods, things like that. Besides that, the ship has a defensive AA fire and a hydroacoustic consumables in 1 slot. I think that means that you have to select between those. That English is a little bit weird. And an engine boost with a short action time, but a large bonus to speed. A repair party that has a long action time but replenishes less HP per second. Now that's all they told us in November. I think if we scroll down, there might be some information down here about Sevastopol. 380 millimeter guns, as we said, about a 19.1 kilometer firing range, 5,300 damage for the HE, 34% fire chance, 820 meters per second is not particularly fast for a Russian ship, but with 380 millimeter guns, that is not unacceptable. AP shell damage of 11,300 damage. With a similar velocity. Reload time is just 26 seconds on these guys, though, which I think is really helpful for a ship that has so few barrels on its main battery. Sigma is 2.05, which is slightly better than 2.0, which is a pretty average ship. That's a pretty small adjustment. A lot of times what we see is Sigmas that are like 1.6, 1.8, 2.0. This is 2.05. Now, again, this is older devlog information from November. That number could change. Secondary armament is pretty average, nothing special there. AA defense is pretty average, 5.8 kilometers, 6 puffs. Yeah, reasonable numbers here. This 385 is actually pretty stout, but it's a tier 10 cruiser, so it's reasonable to AA. Not real fast, but not real slow at 33.5 kilometers. Turning circle is almost 1,000 meters, which I don't remember if that's bad or good for a ship of this size. I think it's probably fine. With a really slow rudder shift time, you're going to want to upgrade that with upgrade modules. 14 kilometer detectability, she's not a sneaky one. And that is what we had in November about Sevastopol. And now we've got some changes. This post was from the 15th of December, and it talks a little bit about Sevastopol. Main battery reload time was reduced down to 25 seconds, so better than 26 that we had a second ago. The damage control party consumable charges increased from 3 to 4, so they actually had it limited all the way down to 3, which means you would have had to have used superintendent to get up to 4. Now you can get up to 5. 3 is a pretty small number, honestly. The repair party consumable charges reduced from 6 to 4. 6 is a lot. Now remember, that's base before doing anything like superintendent. Repair party consumable reload time reduced from 80 seconds to 70 seconds, and then the number of engine boost consumable charges reduced from 6 to 4. They were going to make this ship really powerful, or at least always have those charges ready to go. It's crazy to me. Yeah. So anyway, just a few changes there, and mostly I don't know about mostly buffs. So we had a buff on reload time. We had a buff on damage control parties. We had a nerf on repair party count, a nerf on consumable engine boost consumables, and a buff on the reload time to repair party. Then most recently, this was a news article from the 14th, which was yesterday. They got rid of engine boost. Engine boost is no longer a feature of Sevastopol. Fast damage control team is replaced by regular damage control party. No longer do we have limited uses of fast damage control party. We just have a regular control party, and we can use it anytime it's reloaded throughout the match. We'll never run out, but it's not going to be as rapidly available. Changed the parameters of the repair party consumable. This is actually the thing that made me want to talk about Sevastopol today. So let's talk about this. So repair party, when they first announced the ship, they said, has a repair party that has a longer action time but replenishes less HP per second. Okay, so this is like what they're telling us about repair party now. Change the parameters of the repair party consumable. The reload time went from 70 seconds to 200 seconds. So most battleships at tier 8 or 9 have like an 80-second repair party reload time. I feel like tier 10 is probably not too far off from that. Let me go look at like Kurfürst, for example. Kurfürst has a reload time of 80 seconds. So I thought it stayed the same as it went up tiers. So now instead of reloading your damage your repair party in about 70 seconds, which is comparable-ish to a battleship, it's 200 seconds. So for those of you guys who are not interested in doing the math, that's 3 minutes and 20 seconds. The action time was 60 seconds, which was already a long time, and now it's going to 90 seconds. Just as, again, using Kurfürst as an example, the action time for the Kurfürst with my slightly improved situation is 30.8 seconds. Its base is 28 seconds. So this thing was already twice as long of zombie healing than a Kurfürst was. And now it's 90 seconds. It's about 3 times as long. Thomas says, and that's a cruiser. Yes, it is. This is going to be a very, very tanky cruiser if you get good at knowing when to use that damage control part, or that repair part. I keep crossing those terms, I apologize. The number of consumables went from 4 to 3. It probably went to 3 because if you add all these times together, it doesn't fit in a battle anymore. Like, you know, like 2.5, what did we say it was 3 minutes and 20 seconds plus another minute and a half. 3 minutes, 20 seconds plus a minute and a half is, well, whatever 290 divided by 60 is, right? That's 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So it's basically 5 minutes. When you had 4 of those, they could run constantly from the beginning of the match to the end. So it didn't even fit a 20-minute period because you wouldn't take any damage for the first 3 minutes, which is absurd. So, like, that's crazy. Restoration of hit points has been increased from 187 to 313. So not only is your action time 50% longer, but you basically doubled the number of hit points that you get back per second. 313 is a pretty reasonable number. The number that I have on my Kerfers is 529. So 313 is a chunk, dude, and you'll be able to do 313 times 90 seconds. Let me grab my calculator real quick. 313 times 90 is 28,170 hit points. That's pretty much on par with some of the super heals we've seen. I think there are some that get up into the 30,000 range or above. So it's not like unheard of in terms of the number of hit points you can get back, but the way it's doing it is relatively unique, I think. If you guys know of another ship that's like this, let me know, but I don't know of one right now. Restoration of hit points after receiving damage to the Citadel is increased from 10% to 33%, so more of your Citadel damage is going to be healable. And the restoration of hit points after receiving damage to parts of the hull increased from 50 to 75%. So that's also increased. In other words, more of your damage is going to be healable, sort of like when you see, you know, Salem or one of the British battleships with a super heal, and there's that huge gray bar. This is going to be, these are the parameters they changed to make that a little bit bigger. So that's what's going on with Sevastopol. This ship is coming to the Research Bureau sometime soon. It may be kind of an interesting boat. I wanted to highlight a couple of the things about it that are kind of interesting, and especially that heal. That's so interesting to me. Bowmaster asks, if you get hit during restoration, does it restore the new damage? Yes. So like if you're on fire and you're running your damage control party, it will continue to counter the new fire damage that's coming in. The other thing, I just have 2 other quick things I wanted to talk about briefly. Number 1 is if you don't know about this, go get it. There's a new drop available from Prime. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can activate this drop. And this drop is a little bit tricky to see what happens. There's a bunch of random gifts in here. You can get camouflages. You can get premium ships like Pommern or Alabama. And you can also get 5 days of premium, or 10,000 coal, or a gift container. So definitely go check this out. If you guys are, if you don't have your accounts linked to Prime, figure out how to do it. There's a lot of information about it online. I'm not going to explain it all here, but you know, just log into your Wargaming account. You can do the linking from in there. When you do this, you're going to go back to your game client. It's not going to give you a container. It's not going to give you a mission. It's just going to give you an item. And you may need to go, if you click, let me hide this real quick. If you go over here, you click on this and you go to notifications, it'll say edition or camouflage added or container added or whatever. You'll want to make sure that you go in here and look to see what you got, because it could be kind of tricky. I didn't do it when I was running my client. That was maybe my problem. Jimbo says it just pops up, so maybe it's a little easier to understand if you just do it directly. That's pretty cool. So hopefully everybody goes and gets a cool prize. Jimbo got a Pommern, right? Didn't you get a Pommern? Like, that's awesome. Congratulations on your Pommern, by the way. And then the last thing I want to do is talk a little bit about this aircraft escort mission that they've got, or airship escort mission. They're really trying to make this escort mode a thing, and it's just weird. But here we go. Wargaming is trying again. Airship escort is a new temporary battle type. In other words, a test battle type they're going to add to the game. Everybody has an invulnerable airship, because we all know that airships are invincible. And your job is to guide your airship to the end of its route or to destroy all enemy warships. So rather than having the escorted ships that could be blown up by the enemy, now we have an airship that nobody can damage. It allows us to do the escort mission, which I guess is kind of cool. Key teams can affect the speed of the allied or the enemy airship. Excuse me. Each airship has an interactive zone with just a 3-kilometer radius displayed around it, which seems so small. The airship moves faster if there are only allied ships in the zone, and it reduces the speed if there's an enemy in the zone. The zone is 3 kilometers. Yeah, if there's an enemy in there, we're going to know about it. Like, that situation is going to get resolved really fast. I feel like this radius is going to have to like triple in size, or at least double in size, before this makes any sense at all. But I guess we'll give it a try. There's a track here where the ships, or the airships, excuse me, are going to come closer and closer together. I think we start here and then we move this direction. That's going to cause an increase in battle intensity as the ships get closer and closer together, the airships. It's a 12 by 12 battle with tier 10 ships. So not only are we having to be within 3 kilometers of each other to like slow it down, but like you got to do that in tier 10s. Like, what is this? It's so wacky to me. The other thing I wanted to talk about is actually on a different article. I left it in the dust. It's this one. This is critical. Nerfs to Canarias. It's maybe not a nerf, actually. It's changing what Canarias was going to be. So Canarias was going to be the first ship we had with burst fire that wasn't a super ship. And it's gone. They removed burst fire from Canarias. Maximum main battery firing range has been increased from 14.5 to 16.5. They added the engine boost with a 15% boost. I don't think we've ever seen a 15% boost before. We've seen 820 and 30, but I don't think I've seen a 15. If you guys know of a ship that has a 15, let me know. Main battery reload time was decreased from 15 to 10 seconds because they got rid of the rapid machine gun fire. And they changed the parameters of the AP shells to do more damage. And armor pen went way up. So Canarias got rid of the alternative fire mode. They took it away and they made the ship normal, basically, which makes Canarias a lot less interesting to me. I really, really, really wanted to get this boat and to have it have that capability, but I think what they basically have said, they're not ready. It says Canarias was one of the first ships in our game which we tested out the alternative fire mode mechanics. The new mechanics performed well on the Canarias, but still require a number of tweaks and improvements before it can be used outside of super ships. That's why we removed the alternative fire mode from the ship, compensating for it by strengthening the main caliber guns and adding a new consumable. Yeah, they did swap it out for some buffs. I like the buffs they added, but I'm kind of bummed because those are buffs we already have in other ships. There's other ships that are strong in that way. I wanted a ship that was strong in a new weird way, and I thought Canarias would have been an absolute, just a blast to play. I thought it was going to be a lot of fun. Classified says Sevastopol is poopy now. I don't know if I think it's poopy now. I think it's okay. I actually think that zombie heal is going to be really weird, and I can't wait to try it. I don't know if that's going to be my next Research Bureau boat. Probably not, but it's kind of on the list because it's interesting. So that is what we have for the news today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We will get back to our regularly scheduled stream content now. Sorry I wandered and meandered a little bit there. I hadn't read the last part of that article, so I had to read it with you guys live. Let's get back to World of Warships.
This has been the news on Clyde Plays Live.
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Small lands. Yeah, yeah, yeah.